All right, so since I know the wrong people are probably watching this video right now, I created this sign that you guys are seeing right now. And with that said, I also wanted to thank one of the most generous people that I have ever met on YouTube. He's from Australia, and last night I was sitting here, again, three sheets to the wind, and suddenly I blinked and there was a $200 donation. 200 Australian dollar donation. I didn't know what to do. So I looked at it. I still couldn't make sense of what it was. And I had to walk outside. I walked down the side of my apartment complex and I tried to figure out what it meant because I was that far gone. And I came back inside and I looked at it. I shut off my computer and I went to sleep and I thought about it last night. I thought about what I would do with it. And the number one thing I need to do is I need to get a new bed frame. My bed frame is completely shot. And that's actually where the idea for this morning's video came from. Assembly required. So when I was a kid, my parents would go to a furniture store, mom and pop furniture store in downtown Mesa, Main Street, and I believe it was just off of Center. There was a giant furniture store. It must have been 2 stories high. The owners were just little grandma and grandpa. The place had a certain smell. It was dark, but all your furniture was put together. And it reminded me so much of everything else that we have to put together in our lives. Everything that we buy now is comes in a box and we have to assemble it ourselves. Evil Corp has turned all of us into their slaves to assemble everything. Every aspect of our life, the desk I'm looking at, the computer that I had to put together, my bookshelves, my planters, my bed frame, everything. Nothing comes assembled anymore for the wrong kind of people. And if you're watching this video right now, you're the wrong kind of people that I'm talking about. Everything in life is a annoyance. Even cooking. If you don't have a chef, cooking is assembly required just to eat. So we waste so much of our lives looking at instructions, scratching our heads, and looking at the instructions again and wondering, why does it have to be like this? Why can't someone just come here and deliver my couch like we used to, where we weren't the people putting together our own furniture? Like this couch, when I got it at the beginning of this month, it showed up in 3 large boxes and I had to put it all together, and it was a pain in the rear. Taking hours. The planters I built last weekend took a couple of hours to build. And it's just the point of it is to pass on labor onto the laborers. Get your free labor. I thought by now things would look more assembled. But instead of a life, I've got a pile of mismatched parts, a bent screwdriver, and no clue where to even start. They told me if I worked hard, followed the rules, and stayed patient, I'd eventually build the dream. But no one mentioned in the instructions that we were missing all the pieces. Now I sit here staring at the pictures on the box, wondering if it was ever real to begin with. That's your American dream right there. I used to start this channel off, or these videos, with that really extreme shot showing how the American dream is dead. I haven't used that. I might throw it in there really quick. Actually, I am going to throw it in there really quick, just so you guys can see it. For those of you who haven't seen it. So it's up on the screen now. So that should have played. And then we'll continue this momentarily in your world. To me, it's just a video edit.
All that's left of the American dream is a living nightmare.
Talking point number one. Most people grow up with a packaged fantasy. If you follow the rules, go to school, get a job, stay out of trouble, your life will come together like the picture on the box. But the reality, the kid's missing crucial parts like affordable housing, stable employment, and healthcare. Success isn't about following directions, it's about whether you were given the pieces in the first place. If you're like me, you weren't given the pieces. You were kind of thrown into this life. Thrown into this life without any real guidance. Your parents were completely useless. I realized that when I was in kindergarten that I was smarter than my parents. That's how bad my parents were. I had no formal relationship with any of my parents. And so I grew up kind of in a sense feral, right? You have no parents, you have no connection to society. You don't speak the language that the other kids speak when you're in kindergarten. And you spend the next few years sitting in a trailer with a very sweet, very pale college girl that learned Spanish in school. She has no idea what she's really doing. She's trying to teach someone that doesn't know what she wants them to learn other than you're singing songs. That was my childhood. Singing songs in the trailer behind the school. She drove up every morning in that little white box, and inside it was just full of toys and just more toys. As I remember, they rewarded me like a trained seal for memorizing noises and singing Christmas songs. And that was supposed to be my initiation into the English language. And I will never hold it against them because these sometimes there was two, but most of the time there was just one. And I remember just them being very, very young and us struggling to communicate with one another because their college Spanish was nothing like the Spanish that I spoke, which was hillbilly from the hill Spanish that we couldn't really understand each other. And that's why when you have people who go into communities, into outreach programs in rural, or excuse me, in inner city situations in this country, and you have people that speak that kind of Spanish trying to interact with people who have no formal Spanish. If you ever heard a Spanish professor give a lecture, it sounds nothing like the Spanish of low level people. It's hillbilly Spanish. They are two different worlds. One's very elegant and well spoken, and the other one's pieced together by people who don't speak either English or Spanish in any conceivable way correctly. So, when this is your starting out point in life, chances are you're not going to do so well. Despite it, my parents in the 80s managed to have two homes, nice cars. We never really had, I mean, I didn't understand this at the time, but we were poor, but we still had significantly more than I've ever had in my entire life. Talking point number two, the path to adulthood assumes access to money, mentors, mental health, and time. But for many, especially the working poor, the manual is confusing, irrelevant, or written in a language they were never taught. This isn't a lack of ambition, it's a systemic sabotage disguised as personal failure. Remember, it's always personal failure. And I especially like that ChatGPT pointed out time. When it comes to time to better your life, we don't have it. You're like me, you spend all of your weekends working or doing chores. Right now, I've got about 30 minutes before I've got to hit the gym. Why? Why is that important? Why is the gym so important in my life? Because it reminds me of the fact that people, when you let yourself go, when you don't care what you look like, when you just give up on your own body, that's another point to knock you down as a poor person. When you don't take care of yourself, it is an obvious sign that you don't care. Let yourself get fat, you're already short, you're already not the best looking person, and then you let your personal appearance go downhill. It shows a lack of laziness. And what it is a lack of time. Poor people don't have the time in order to be able to work on self help or self care. Anything having to do with self. Most people, like if I walk out into the parking lot right now, Most of my neighbors are out there right now driving for Uber or DoorDash or working in retail. Most of these people that live around me have to have 2 to 3 jobs. I mean, I'm not doing this right now because I don't need the money. I'm working right now. This is work. Someone gave me $200 last night because they understand that this is work. It takes time. You have to be able to articulate your thoughts, understand what's going on. In order to do this channel, you have to be a pretty adept person at writing. It's nice that you have a literature degree, and that's what I have. That's what makes this possible. I say this all the time that none of my college degrees, all 4 of my college degrees, didn't amount to anything. But they do allow me to do this, to be able to speak, to be able to create artwork that goes along with this. This stuff doesn't just prompt itself. You have to be able to create this stuff. You have to be able to do this. A lot of people can't. When you look at the TikTok generation, sure they have great ideas, but they have the attention span of a goldfish. And I know that expression is overrated, but when I present information, I'm going to present it in a 20-minute video, which is very long considering the audience that you have. But there are hundreds and hundreds of people who sit here every single day watching this channel, learning from this channel, and understanding that it's not your fault that you failed. Personal failure is something we tell people that to take responsibility over a system that has caused you to fail. In what ways has this society made it possible for more people to be successful? There's a reason we have the 99%. The 99% were set up, were sabotaged, and it's disguised as personal failure. When we looked at the banks that went broke in 2008, what did they do? They asked for bailouts. What did poor people get? Nothing. They lost their homes, they lost their livelihoods, they lost everything. I still know people who have not recovered from the 2008 financial crisis. But you know what? Who's doing great? The banks. They're always doing great. It's like what they say: if you're a person with with means, you can go into a bank and rob the place. But if you're a bank, you have the capacity to rob everyone because that's what banks do. They're not your friends. I was looking at my at what I paid on my car over the last 3 years. I have paid an entire year on my car of just interest payments. One full year so far has been entirely interest paid to the bank. So I have reliable transportation in my Promobile. That's not an accident. That's intentional. Those banks are robbing all of us all of the time, and they know it. But it's the privilege of being able to do that. If you're a white collar criminal, it's great. If you're going to go rob the place, well, get ready for them to chase you with, there's a phrase I want to use here, with a reckless disregard. When I was at the university, I think I was around 20 years old, and they had a bank, credit union, at the school, and someone robbed the bank at the school. And I mean, the FBI got involved so quickly, it was almost ridiculous to see how much effort they put into catching one guy who took maybe a couple $1,000s from the bank. They had a helicopter over the air at the university chasing this guy. They don't do that for people, for white collar criminals. In fact, they usually just slap them on the hand and tell them to do better. That's the difference between the way our society treats the common criminal and the white collar criminal. Talking point number 3. People who can't assemble their lives are made to feel like broken parts. That shame keeps us from questioning the system and blaming the real issue: a rigged economy. By individualizing failure, society avoids responsibility. and the cycle of silent suffering continues. Remember, privatize the gains, socialize the losses. You know who the losses are? You and me. We're the losses in a system which is completely broken, a system in which we can't get a decent job, a system where paying people so little that they can barely survive. I mean, I keep thinking about this. I think about this all the time. It's like I think about my worker whose rent and monthly income is the same. How is that a just society where your rent and your paycheck are equivalent to one another? The only way you can survive in that situation is by having someone to help you. If not, you're going to end up on the street, just like I have, over and over and over again. When no one's going to come to help you, you end up packing your things and you move outside. I see it here every single day. There are people that live in this apartment complex that are only here because they're too crazy to be out there. So rather than letting them roam the streets as mentally ill people, the city provides housing in this crappy apartment complex to these people. And I see them walking around shirtless, aimless, just wandering around outside. And I used to ask, it's like, why are those people here? And someone in the, I think it's one of the maintenance guys told me, is yeah, the city rents out certain amount of apartments here in order to house these mentally ill people. And that's who my neighbors are. Anyhow, let's get into the last part of this. Maybe your life doesn't look like the picture, not because you're broken, but because the system is. They gave you the struggle and called it character. They handed you chaos and said it builds resilience. But I see you sitting on the floor, surrounded by pieces, still trying. And that's the strength to no manual could ever teach. Okay, so I think I read that wrong. That's the strength that no manual could ever teach. So if you ever hear someone break the script, don't look away. That's not a malfunction. Oh, this is part of yesterday's script. That's why. I must have not clipped it. That did sound awfully familiar. That's actually a video you guys are going to watch next week about talking to one of the cashiers at Kroger's. It's actually quite a sad video. You guys will, I think, end up watching that on Friday of next week. But anyhow, there you have it. When I asked ChatGPT, why is so much assembly required in life? This is the script that it provided me. It's not your fault that you're broke. It's not your fault that you're a failure at life. It's not your fault that you're alone. None of it's your fault. This is by design. A system created to make certain that the vast majority of ordinary proletariat is left in the dark wondering what happened. Someday you're going to wake up and you're going to be really old, and the one thing that's going to be staring back at you is going to be the pine box, our retirement, looking into a shallow grave as your final resting place. Because poor working class people don't get to retire. They get to go into the box. And hopefully you left some some future slaves around in the form of your children so that they can continue the struggle. Because I think the administration this week said the future of America is you working in factory jobs, your children working in factory jobs, and their children working in factory jobs. You know what a factory job is? It's a dead end. It's a life that's going nowhere because they're not going to pay well in those factories. There's a reason why we don't have factory work in America, because it wouldn't pay well. And if a job doesn't pay you well, if you're not making $250,000 a year, you're not getting paid well. Because think of this, even an entry-level new car right now is running between $40,000 and $50,000. That's $25 an hour for 40 hours for an entire year just to buy an entry-level brand new car. You can't afford that. I can't afford that. And that's where it ends. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I have to get ready to go to the gym.